All right. Good morning, everyone. How is your Wednesday going? We're here today to bring you another fantastic investment opportunity with our Northern Miners Investor Corner. I'm Anthony Vaccaro. I'm the managing director for the Northern Miner Group and Glacier's Resource Innovation Group. We've been having a lot of fun with these investor profiles, and we have a great one for you today with Equity Metals. Equity Metals has the Silver Queen precious metals. Well, it's a precious metals biased polymetallic vein. It's in British Columbia. So you have that nice kind of jurisdictional play there. I think one of the things that stands out for me with Equity Metals, there's a lot of strong factors as they're defining, they'll be pushing out and defining Silver Queen. We're going to hear much more about that from the team here. But it's a very experienced management team, so it checks off that box. And you'll be hearing from two key members of the team here today. As I mentioned, in BC, so you have that kind of nice known jurisdiction in terms of geology, mineralogy. Structures are well known there. There's not a lot of unforeseen things coming up. And of course, low political risk as well. So you have that polymetallic play. We're into this. We think we're into a super cycle. We're definitely out of the bear market. We certainly know that. So having exposure to an array of key metals is a pretty nice feature to have over at Silver Queen. And we're going to be joined today by Equity Metals President and Director Joe Kizis. He's going to join us first, and then later we'll be joined by the VP of Exploration, Robert Macdonald. So all of you geologists out there, we'll get to pick Robert's brains a little bit. As usual, we'll have the presentation. Stick around, then we'll do some Q&A with Joe and Robert. Let me tell you a little bit about Robert, because once Joe presents, we'll move right into Robert. He's the VP of Explorations, as I've said, for the Mannix Resource Group of companies. And that's led him to hold the title of VPX for Homestake Resources, which was acquired by Oren, Southern Silver, Volterra Resources, Duncastle Gold, and Fortune River Resource. So lots of experience there. He led the team that delineated that high-grade 1.2 million ounce Homestake Ridge deposit in northern British Columbia. And he's currently advancing Southern Silver's 12 million ton Cerro Laminitas project in Mexico. Over his career, he's focused on vein and intrusion-related gold systems and VMS environments. Prior to joining Mannix, he worked as a geologist with the British Columbia Geological Survey and Tech Exploration on projects in Alaska, Peru, and British Columbia. So a lot of great experience there he is bringing to the table. And as for Joe Kizis, Joe is, as I said, the president of Equity Metals. He's going to join us now. He has over 40 years in mineral exploration for disseminated gold and sediments, volcanics, and skarns, excellent hosted gold, volcanogenic massive sulfides, sediment-hosted massive sulfides, stockwork, molybdenum, porphyry, copper, just a whole range of great experience there, both especially in the U.S. and abroad as well. He previously was president and director of Homestake Resources, which, as I mentioned, was acquired by Oren Resources back in 2016. And additionally, he was president for the Geological Society of Nevada, as well as chairman of the board of the GSN Foundation from its inception in 2000 to 2002. And Joe is joining us from Nevada. I believe you're in Nevada, Joe, is that right? Welcome to the Northern Miners Investors Corner. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having us, Anthony. And yes, I'm in Reno right now, and appreciate the opportunity to speak about our company. So I'm going to share my screen right now.
Yep. Over to you, Joe. You take it away, and I'll come back on for some questions once you and Robert are done.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Well, very good. Can you see the screen now? I think we're okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yep. Perfect. Yes. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Equity Metals is a company based in Vancouver. See the symbols EQTY on the TSXV, and then EQMEF as the QP OTC trading symbol. So a little bit about background and how we became involved with the project. The company that was our predecessor here was trying to make this a small high-grade underground mining operation, and I'm afraid the market wasn't buying it. So they had hired a mining engineer that took a look at the project and possibilities that they were trying to promote, and thought, well, there's probably a bigger story here. We'd actually worked with that mining engineer with our Homestake Ridge project, and he thought, well, maybe you guys should take a look at this. Company would be willing to change directions a little bit if you think that's the case. So we took a look at it. We were impressed by the grades. They were a little narrow in some places, but this is located in a porphyry district, and we felt there were a lot of similarities to Homestake Ridge. Um, Basically, it's an intermediate sulfidation system, very high level, probably a porphyry driving this. There's in fact a porphyry that's discovered, a small porphyry on the project. So, it kind of fit our model of something that we had some good experience with. There were a number of other really good advantages compared to what we had done in the Golden Triangle. And we'll talk about those as well. So we did our due diligence, and I guess it was October of 2019, we took over the company. And the idea was that the resource that they were in the process of delineating looked to us like we could expand it quite a bit. So we did a fairly aggressive drilling program. We had some really nice intercepts. You can see some of the core here from 2020. This is from the Camp Vein property, all that reddish colored material there. I'm not sure how it shows up on your screen, but it's ruby silver and clearly so, very high grade silver mineralization. So with that, we'll talk about the property as we see it. We're geologists, so again, we're always looking forward. We're trying to make a discovery, so we're not necessarily describing what we've already discovered. We're talking about what we're going to discover or what we hope to discover. So beware of the forward-looking statements. So our company is part of the Mannix group of companies. They provide us with all the background support that we need with accounting and investor relations, a lot of legal work, of course, over time. So that frees up our technical team to really focus on adding value for their shareholders through discovery. And that's really what we focused on through most of the Mannix companies. Once we acquired the project, we've been pretty aggressive in drilling it. We've completed 31 holes in less than the first year, just under 10,000 meters of drilling. And really, that property has 20 veins that have been identified. Almost all of that drilling was on 2 of those veins, with a little bit on a couple of the adjacent structures. So we've had quite good success in adding to the resource base. I mean, we haven't sort of calculated that yet, but we've certainly added drilling and mineralization along the edges of the existing resource. We're planning right now an aggressive follow-up drilling program starting sometime late summer, early fall. We're in the process of permitting at this point, doing some additional geologic work to kind of tighten up some of the targets. So the resource that was essentially done when we got involved with the project was something we actually had to help complete with some financing, but it's around 440,000 ounces of gold equivalent. And it's polymetallic, as Anthony mentioned. It's gold, silver, the primary value, significant silver values as well, and a little bit of copper and lead as well. So we thought that was a good start, but really what we were most interested in is, we thought there was a pretty good opportunity to expand that significantly. And part of that expansion is, evaluating what the assumptions were when people were doing their original exploration. And, with our experience, you really have to keep reassessing what some of the ore controls are, particularly when it's high grade mineralization. So the number 3 vein has been tested pretty extensively along strike, underground, and as well as a lot of drilling. And it has an orientation to the north-northwest. Camp Vein, they assumed that it was the same orientation. As we started doing some geochemical modeling and 3D modeling, we thought, there's a pretty good chance that these are mostly controlled by a series of easterly trending structures. So during our last drilling program, we tested that idea with 3 drill holes. All 3 holes, as you see in this news release headline, intersected nice thick mineable zones of plus kilo silver equivalent mineralization, and included quite a bit of anomalous, our bonanza grade silver. You can see 14,000 grams silver, 7.6 thousand grams silver, and 11,500 grams silver. So, pretty impressive. So, this gives us the opportunity to begin to do projections that we think will have a better success rate in drilling. So, there's a lot of high grade hits in the Golden Triangle, for example, and not only did the grades here at Silver Queen attract us because of those high grades, but also the logistics here. This has great access. There's no helicopter needed. You can drive. There's a paved road part way, and then a good Forest Service road that cuts through the western side of the project. There's a power line that sort of mirrors that same access. 40, 50-minute drive from the town of Houston. So lots of logistical pluses to the project. The exploration costs, because we don't have to have a helicopter drop the drill rig around. We can drive to most places on the property. It lowers our costs significantly. We're on the east side of the range, the Coast Range, which is where the high mountains are. So we're in a bit of a snow shadow. So instead of 10 meters of snow in the winter, you can get, maybe a meter of snow. We started our latest drilling project in February, and, other than the typical, sort of winter conditions causing a little bit of lower efficiency, it was no problem for us to expand pretty much year-round exploration. So a number of other issues that are positive. There has been a significant amount of underground, basically development work. These were for underground drill pads in most cases. There was a little bit of production, but most of this was for exploration drilling. So there's about 9 kilometers worth of underground work, and sort of, it's flooded right now, but as we get farther along, we get to the feasibility stage where we need lots of bulk sample and that sort of thing underground. Mining conditions, engineering conditions, that really will be a big plus for the project. It's an area that's surrounded by mid-tier and major mining companies. So, not only is that a possibility, it's potentially a joint venture or acquisition of the company, but it also simplifies somewhat the permitting process. As I said, most of the work we've done since we've acquired the project has been on the 2 veins. The number 3 vein is really a gold bias vein, and you can see some nice high-grade gold values here. But those are within envelopes. Those are fairly narrow, but they're within envelopes of mineable thickness with mineable grades. Same thing with the Camp vein. Some bonanza grade silver, but it's also within envelopes of nice wide zones of significant grade silver. We acquired the project in, like I said, late 2019. We did a financing at 8 cents. You can see we kind of, bobbled along here until we got closer to the drilling period. Once we started drilling and started announcing assays, we had a very nice run. We backed off a little bit now down to somewhere in the mid-20s, something like that, 23 cents. We're still $17 million or less in market cap. So there's still a lot of upside, we think, to the project. And as we're learning more and more about the geological controls, that's, we're pretty excited that we're going to have a pretty exciting 2021, 2022 period. Directors, you can see here, Larry's been involved with a number of successful companies over the years. He's a securities lawyer, a lot of geologists and accountants and that sort of thing here. So we're well supported by our management group. So the Silver Queen project, located here about midway up British Columbia, There are some other assets in the company, and two important ones are there are two diamond projects in the Northwest Territories. They're both about 40 kilometers from active or nearly active past producing diamond mines. On each of the projects, there are diamond bearing kimberlites that have been partially drilled out. We've done a bit of work out there, just sort of maintaining the projects, maintaining our camp at Monument. But we're kind of keeping that on the shelf right now just because of the priorities with Silver Queen and the logistical issues of trying to work during the COVID period this last year. So we're going to focus on Silver Queen. It is located, like I said, about halfway up British Columbia. This is the Skeena Arch right here. This is an area of a number of porphyry copper deposits, and this is in part why we thought, okay, this is geochemically this aligns with what we would call an intermediate sulfidation vein system. There are others as well. There's one directly to the north of us here. So at this point, we're going to talk a little bit more detail, and I'm going to introduce Rob Macdonald, our VP of Exploration. And Rob, I'm going to let you share a screen.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Joe. And thank you all for joining us in this presentation. And now can everybody see the screen at this point?
Yes, we can, Rob.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Yeah, but the presentation goes off on my side, so I just wanted to make sure. But thank you again for joining us here, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail in the Silver Queen project, both the infrastructure and logistics, as well as in a little bit more detail the geology and our most recent exploration results. So the project itself is located in west central British Columbia, as Joe said, in the Skeena Arch. We're located just south of the town of Houston, which occurs along Highway 16. So it's the main highway that runs up through northern British Columbia. The project can be accessed by road from Houston. It's about a 40-minute drive, or about 40 kilometers to the south, and it's a reasonably large property package, over 18,000 hectares, and comprised of standard mineral tenures, as well as some crown grants, as well as some surface rights in the area of the historic mine site. The project has, again, excellent infrastructure. There's a power line running right through the project, roads running right through the project. We're near rail that goes through the town of Houston, and we're surrounded by producers in what is now becoming a much more active exploration area, and both a current and historical area in terms of production. So you can see from the map here, we have the Huckleberry mine is located to the southwest. Centerra's Berg deposit, which is now recently being optioned to Surge Copper, again out to the southwest. The historic Equity Silver Mine, Newmont Gold Corp have that project. To our north, Sun Summit has the Buck property, Teck has the CR property. So again, it's quite an active area of exploration, and with some tremendous potential as we move forward through what we believe is going to be a bull market in metals. So the Silver Queen mine area, it's the target that we're focusing on now are the high-grade epithermal veins. We're going to focus on the Silver Queen mine, which was originally discovered. The veins were originally discovered in 1912, and there's been exploration, for the last 100 years, with some limited production. First in the 1930s in this area, in the early 1970s in this area, and then in the mid to late 1980s, one of the Hunt brothers companies took control of the project and started a significant development of the number 3 vein. And so in here you can see in green, that's the underground development that's being produced to targeting the number 3 vein, which is indicated in red here. There's around 9,000 meters of historic development throughout here. There's 3 different declines. This is, you know, the more recent and active decline. There's a tailings facility on the project, and these whole series of veins, about 20 different veins that have been identified over roughly a 6 square kilometer area. And we believe that there's both excellent exploration potential of the known veins, as well as numerous additional veins and currently covered and hidden veins left to be discovered on the property. The number 3 vein was being the main target of previous exploration and historical development. It can be traced on surface for 1.2 kilometers and then continues extending to the southeast into the NG3 vein system. We have other veins that are forming along more east-west trends, and I'll get into those in a little bit more detail in a little while. The number 3 vein has the known 43-101 mineral resources on it, and the Camp vein has a historic reserve that was calculated back in the late 80s that we're focusing on in order to bring that into a compliant 43-101 resource and expand that resource as we excuse me, target the Camp vein and the number 5 vein systems. Again, to highlight the excellent logistics. You can literally drive up to the project. This is the front gate, the camp in the background there. You can easily get around to access for drilling, both with trucks and you know, with drills mounted on skids. So again, no helicopters involved. Easily get around in ATVs and as well as get machinery around to get your rigs and mobilize into specific areas. The resource breaks down in indicated and inferred resources, about an equivalent number of tons in indicated and inferred. And the main features here to take away are the, again, the strong bias of gold and silver. And this is in primarily the number 3 vein is where this resource was identified, and the grade. And again, note the relatively high grade of the mineralization. And we believe that there's the ability to both expand the number 3 vein as well as numerous other veins that occur throughout the project. So we've started drilling. We've completed 3 phases of drilling on the property. Some confirmatory drilling, other drilling looking to expand from known areas of mineralization. We've completed 31 holes, just under 10,000 meters have been completed to date, with 16 holes for just under 3,700 meters completed on the Camp vein area in this area, and 15 holes for just under 6,300 meters in the number 3 and the NG3 vein systems here. And so on this map, you can see that there has been a lot of historic drilling, and these are the historic drill holes. Either they're the smaller indicated holes in gray, and our most recent drilling in 20 and 21 are indicated with the blue color locations here. And again, you can see in the green color, that's the historic development. And now in the red, we've expanded the distribution or the mapping of the veins. And so the main thing that, the other thing to take away here is that we do seem to be getting 2 main orientations to the vein systems, and that's important. We see the northwest, southeast vein system characteristic of the number 3 and up in the Coal Lake area, but we also see a very strong east-west trend, and that seems to be shown by the Camp vein number 5, transition to the switchback into the number 3, and then into the NG3 vein system, and as well a little bit further north in the George Lake South, Wrench Creek and bunkhouse systems. So this is now the focus that we're looking at looking forward. We want to drill out the Camp vein, expand that to the east into the number 5 vein system, continue testing some of these shallow targets in the switchback area, and then get down into the NG3 area where there's around a 700 meter open strike length extending to the east-southeast that we believe is part of this whole east-west vein system. And so we started developing this concept, one by a historical compilation of the existing data and the known veins, but also as we started getting into exploring the camp vein. Originally, there was about historically 50 different, 50 drill holes, historic drill holes that tested the camp vein. We've drilled another 16. We've been able to confirm zones of mineralization and expand that mineralization down dip as deep as now 175 meters. New modeling, new 3D modeling has identified 4 different mineralized structures. These can extend upwards of 250 meter strike length, and they would appear to extend further to the east into the number 5 vein system, which was located by surface mapping and sampling, as well as historic drilling, some of our own drilling over in this area, as well as veins that were intersected in the 1970s, the Earl adit, the adit that was driven in the 1970s. And these are the Earl adit veins. They seem to have a similar orientation to what we now believe is the orientation of the camp vein system. So at the camp vein, we have 50 holes with which to build on. We have mineralization extending now down a minimum of 175 meters, open at depth. Mineralization is also open on the western margin of these vein systems, and as well open to the east towards the number 5. We have hanging wall mineralization that may still develop into additional veins, and we have footwall mineralization that may still develop into additional veins. So we're seeing tremendous amount of exploration potential here. Our initial resource objective is to put another 500,000 to 1 million tons onto the project, and we're looking at high grade mineralization. We want to be looking at mineralization on the order of 1,000 gram per ton silver equivalent, and again, grade. It's what we find on these projects. In the number 3 vein system, we've completed just under 6,300 meters and 15 drill holes. So what we have here is the resource model. And you can see the different contours. So red is greater than $500 NSR per ton. So very high grade mineralization in here. So our initial drilling in 2020 essentially was confirming some of the mineralization within the current model to get an idea, one, of what that vein looked like, the thickness of the alteration of mineralized zones surrounding that vein, and if there was any potential for a hanging wall or footwall structures, and then to start systematically exploring down dip to see if we can extend mineralization. And we were successful. We then came in 2021, another series of holes, good success in this area. So we're seeing an expansion of high-grade mineralization, maybe down in this sort of vector, some high-grade but thinner veins in this connector zone. And then we have mineralization identified down dip in the NG3 vein system. We've now established a 250-meter down dip projection of that mineralization. And we know that that mineralization is open for upwards of 600 meters, 700 meters to the southeast, where historic veins, historic drilling has tested the vein with high-grade mineralization to a minimum of 500 meters depth. So we're starting to see some tremendous exploration potential here. So we're now put together a 15,000 meter drilling program planned for 2021, likely to extend into the first quarter of 2022. And this will be focusing near-term gold and silver vein targets. We're looking to expand the resource initially at the camp vein and then the other vein targets. And we're looking as our next resource milestone to grow the resource into the 1 to 1.5 million ounce gold equivalent range. Because we have the underground development, it will allow a fast track to production. And we're in the process of working with the engineers to determine the permitting that's going to be required to dewater those workings and to be able to get underground access as we would shift the project in the future into a pre-development stage and into the development into development phases. We also have the Monument and the WO Diamond properties, highly prospective areas. Diamond prices are going up. So we have these projects ready to go, and as we're able to raise financing for them, and diamond prices continue to rise, we have opportunities to build value for the shareholder in our diamond projects as well. Okay, thank you very much. That's it from me.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much, Joe. Very good presentation there. I got a question for either one of you. Robert, you showed the location there. Obviously, some very big names in and around Silver Queen, with Teck to the north of you, and Newmont up there as well. What potentially does having those kinds of names around you mean for a future mine? Would it be a tolling situation? Would ore be processed at another facility offsite?
I mean, that's very possible. A number of the major projects that are in the area are porphyry copper projects, so that they would tend to be different processing facilities, different mills, different flotation circuits. But I think the real advantage is that the area is coming alive in terms of exploration and targeting future production. So it's always good to have producers in the neighborhood. We believe, in terms of the resource that we have and our plans to expand the resource, that if we're not already on the radars, we will be very quickly on the radars of both major and mid-tier producers that may be active in the area. And I think that's the real benefit. There's the possibility of synergies, but at this point, I think it's more of just being in a good neighborhood and being in an area that has a long history of exploration and development.
Yeah, boy, you're so right about that. We see that all the time. When you do have that jurisdictional strength, it does help a lot. Now, those bonanza grades are obviously pretty eye-catching on the silver. What does that mean for the economics of a future project? Is it primarily, do you envision this primarily being driven by silver? Will silver be the biggest contributor to revenue?
I mean, at this point, silver and gold, I think they make up about equal values relative. And in terms of the number 3 vein, they're about 65% of the value, and that's at an NSR level as well, not just an in situ value. Clearly, as we add mineralization and potentially add resources in the camp vein, we are going to see a much stronger silver bias. The recent work that we've done to identify the multiple veins that make up the camp vein system and the potential of those veins to continue projecting laterally both to the east, as we clearly see them moving into the number 5 and the switchback vein system, as well as being open to the west. I think that bodes well for being able to develop very significant high-grade, bonanza-grade silver mineralization in the future, or silver resources in the future.
Excellent. We had a comment from one of the listeners that's new to investing in metals and mining, which I think we're going to see a lot more of. When you're speaking to a generalist investor or someone that's new to the industry, what are the key points you want to bring them in to understand what the most compelling aspect is to Silver Queen? How do you break it down for someone that's new to investing in mining?
Did you want to take that, Joe?
Yeah, sure. Grade is certainly a very significant part of investing. High grade deposit can resolve a lot of minor issues, but it's really the margin that should make a difference in whether a mining operation is profitable or not. So, for example, the fact that we're with good access. There's a number of benefits. First of all, we get a lot more drilling per financial raise, if you will. So, and the fact that the mineralization is relatively shallow in a lot of these target areas, it gives us, again, more intercepts for the dollars that we have to raise in the market. So, from an investor standpoint, that helps with, lesser and lesser dilution. From a mining standpoint, again, working in an area that gets 10 meters of snow, like the Golden Triangle, those are great deposits, but they have to be, because, just the cost of operating in those kind of environments is, is so much higher than in a place like Silver Queen, which, you can drive to the property basically any time of the year, right? So, those are some of the things that you want to look at. Obviously, the team that is evaluating the project, that's important. Have they done this before? Do they have a good, strong geologic team, but also do they have a strong team of directors that can guide you through any kind of an acquisition stage, if that's the case? We've done that, with other companies, in our group. So, those are important points. We're not miners per se. So if we wanted to bring a property into production, we'd have to bring in another staff. Our expertise is in exploration, and we've done quite well over the years, within our group. And so when we look at a project, we look at, okay, can we make a discovery here? And is it going to be significant enough to be worthwhile? I spent half my career working for major companies, Exxon, Minerals, and a lot of the oil company groups. So when you're competing for investment dollars in mining with those kind of other opportunities, you have to have a significant high margin deposit. And so that's really what we're looking for. That's why we really have put our effort in the Silver Queen, because we think that's an opportunity that we can add a lot of value very quickly.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Well said. Margins, accessibility, really critical factors, and management team. Joe hit them all. Those are the main kind of filters when you're looking for companies to invest by, and you want to grade people by that. Another one from an attendee. When is estimated production at Silver Queen? This is a multi-tier question. That's the first one. Will you hedge the position? And wants information on future offering stock options. Why don't we hit those kind of three right there? So estimated production, hedging kind of comes in a little bit later, but maybe we want to touch upon that. And I guess any future financings, private placements, anything like that in the works.
Yeah, well, we're still in the early stages of considering production at this point. There's a big difference between having a 200 ton a day mill and a 2,000 ton a day mill. So our goal is to bring it to the point where it's in that upper end, not the lower end. The profitability goes down. In other words, the margin goes down because you're not processing enough material to get the advantages of, a scale. So, how long will it take us to outline the next stage? Our thought is that the next round of drilling will bring us to the stage where we'll do a preliminary economic study sometime, probably the middle of next year, maybe late spring, as early as late spring. So, that's the first step. And that gives you an idea of scale and what needs to be done prior to bringing it to a pre-feasibility study. Probably you're going to need some additional drilling and starting to get more engineering input at that point, a lot more metallurgical input. And then the final step is a feasibility. And, really starting in the PEA stage, you start looking at, things about how you might finance it, but you really don't get serious about that until the pre-feasibility stage. So I think we're still out, a couple of years probably before we're, kind of in the pre-feasibility stage. And, in part, that's not a bad thing, because this is the exploration upside that we see. It's not, okay, here's a limited area, we're going to spend so much money drilling it out, and that's it. There's just an enormous number of veins and exciting targets on this property, and it's going to take a while to systematically go through and discover them. One thing about these intermediate sulfidation systems, they can be very, very large systems, multi-million ounces, and we see the features that you see in these kind of large district scale operations, and that's really what we're trying to produce here, or bring to production is something like that, not just a little high grade vein that that we can make a little bit of money on. So hedging and all that stuff, that comes quite a bit later.
That's much later. And for, as we did have that comment about being new to investing in mining, maybe we'll just kind of quickly lay it out. What's understood in the mining industry is there's a traditional valuation curve. And the idea is what we see historically with mining valuations in that early stage of exploration, which is where equity metals is, as the ore gets defined, you have this revaluation. So you traditionally have this high valuation. That's what Joe's referring to. And then once the deposit is known, you generally speaking, it pulls back. And then you have this kind of period until a production decision. And then once you get into production, then the stock generally goes off again. So equity metals in that first part, they're delineating it. And then the opportunity is based around that. Another question from the audience here around the potential ore. They're asking, do you know at this stage, is the potential ore refractory? Any notion of recoverability at this stage?
Yes. The work that was done in the 80s, in the late 80s, and it was by Houston Minerals was the company. They did quite a bit of bulk testing. They had a pilot plant going, and so they did work out, the recoveries and the valuations of the mineralization. You'll note that the mineral resource estimate has been calculated on an NSR basis, and that in the actual resource, again, it's reported as an NSR basis. So what they've done here is that they've taken, I'll see if they've taken metallurgical work that was done in 1988. They've identified 3 different concentrates. They have recoveries established into those concentrates. And this is just from the number 3 vein. We would have to do further work on the camp vein system. And if there were significant differences in the metallogeny, we would have to do further work on other vein systems as they're discovered and developed. But this was primarily on the number 3 vein. Pilot plant test work, giving overall recoveries of over 80% gold, 95% silver, over 90% copper, 90% lead, and 98% zinc. And so it was based on those recoveries that they were able to calculate the NSR values that went into doing the most recent work and the most recent resource estimate. So there is a substantial base from which to work with or to build on. Now, this work was done in the late 1980s, and there has been quite a bit of advancement in looking at recoveries of polymetallic ores over the last 30 years effectively. And so we are looking at continuing to do a bit more work and to try and get better results to reduce any deleterious elements that might be within these concentrates as we continue advancing the project. But this work in itself gives us a lot of confidence that we have certainly some room to grow, but we already have good metallurgy to build on as we move forward.
Excellent, thank you, Rob. And one more around financing. I mean, Joe, you touched upon it, but this is very specific. Are you in the process of raising funds? Is the question from the audience member.
Yeah, we're not right now, but we will be looking at raising some flow-through funds fairly soon. We have a treasury now of about $2.1 million. The flow-through is what we typically use for drilling projects, 15,000 meter program that we'd like to do coming up will have to be funded. So, that's something that we're working on right now. We're not ready to announce a financing at this point.
Yes, but keep your ears peeled.
Right.
Excellent.
Rob is anxious to drill.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I said Rob is very anxious to drill, as we both are.
That's what you want from your VPX, right? Bring me some money so I can get the drills turning. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, listen, we really appreciate both of you spending some time with us, bringing this opportunity to our viewers. Joe, you hit upon the current share price. It's kind of in that nice consolidation pattern around, consolidating around in the 20-25 cent range. Again, traditionally, you kind of see as that's what you want before a big drill program. And I think as you see continued success with the drill bit, it's a nice, generally speaking, that's a nice entry point for investors. And it's the type of exploration story at the Northern Miner we love. We've been covering these kinds of stories for over 100 years now. And we wish you, you and your whole team continued success with the drill bit. We'll look for the news flow coming out in the coming months.
Well, that's great, Anthony. We appreciate you allowing us the opportunity.
Excellent.
Excellent. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you all for joining us. And till next time.
Thanks so much. Thank you to our audience. Great questions as always. Have a great Wednesday, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.